You're watching Sky News. Let's take you through the top stories tonight. At least 16 people are reported to have been killed in a bomb attack in the heart of the Thai capital, Bangkok. It's thought that 4 foreigners were among the dead. Prosecutors have begun an appeal against the verdict in the Oscar Pistorius case, arguing he should have been convicted of the higher charge of murder. And the driver involved in Glasgow's bin lorry tragedy has been excused from giving evidence at an official inquiry, while the family of one of the victims mounts a criminal case against him. Well, it's been a day of tremors around the world. First, a magnitude 4 tremor just outside San Francisco earlier. Now we're hearing from the US Geological Survey reports of a much larger earthquake tremor of 5.9 in magnitude just off the coast of Yemen. No further details there of what damage or what impact it's had. So we'll keep an eye on that for you, bring it to you if we get any more developments on that earthquake off the coast of Yemen. Well, back to our top story now, that huge bomb blast in the heart of Bangkok. It's killed 16 people at least, injured 80 more. Joined now from Didcot, Oxfordshire, by Lloyd Figgins. He's an international security expert, worked extensively in Thailand, deals with the whole question of crisis and risk management. I imagine for a lot of people who go there on business and go there on holiday, they hadn't really thought of it as being a high-risk country. So it's going to be a bit of a shock, this.
I think it's always a bit of a shock, Jeremy, when we see these events on our screens and hear about them. I think that you're right, Thailand traditionally has been a low-risk country or a lower-risk country. That's not to say there isn't risk within Thailand. Clearly in the south, as Sam Kiley was pointing out in his report earlier, that there are issues and there are insurgents within that region.
There are actually, I mean, when you look at it, there are quite a number of possibilities. Nobody yet has pointed the finger directly at the perpetrators. The authorities are suggesting there is some political connotation to this. From your experience, where would you be looking first?
Well, first of all, Jeremy, I think we have to recognise that risk is everywhere, and what we tend to do is carry out a very, very conclusive threat assessment of any country that any of our people are operating in, and whether that is for tourism or whether it's for business. Then we move on from that, we look at site-specific risk assessments, and then we start looking at our emergency response planning. I think that really at the moment it's probably too early in the investigation to say that fingers are pointing in any direction. I think now is a time for collecting that evidence and making sure that the authorities are getting as much information as they possibly can to find out exactly what happened here.
The bomb itself, once it's examined, will give a lot of clues, but the target perhaps points in the direction of who could be behind it, because the Erawan shrine right next to the Erawan hotel is a pretty iconic part of central Bangkok. A lot of tourists will know it. A lot of people who've seen political demonstrations over the years will realise that it's pretty familiar as a political gathering point. It may perhaps inform us a little bit about what could be going on and what the targets could be.
I think there's a degree of truth in that, but there's also a lot of unknowns within this whole equation. I think that there's a number of different aspects at play here. Yes, there could be religious motivations for this, there could be political motivations for this, and it could be a case that tourists were targeted, or it could be a combination of all those things. I think you're familiar with that area of Thailand as much as I am, and I think that really if people were going to target tourists specifically, there's plenty of bars on the Khao San Road and places like that where they really could go and target specifically tourists. We haven't actually seen that with this attack. Yes, tourists go to that shrine, but so do worshippers, Thai people, on an everyday visit to somewhere like that. And I think really until we get that more information, we're not going to know what happened here.
300,000 Brits go there every year. many more millions of foreigners go there on holiday each year. It's going to be difficult for the various governments involved, like the Foreign and Commonwealth Office here, to know just how to couch the advice to people who enjoy going to Thailand.
And Thailand's a fantastic destination. And I think we've got to put this into some sort of perspective. Given those numbers you've just mentioned about how many people do actually travel to Thailand and how rare events such as this actually are. And we recently saw a similar thing in Tunisia. However, what I would say is that people do need to pay as much attention as they possibly can to government advice and not just look at their own government's advice. For instance, have a look at what the Australians are doing, have a look at what the Canadians and the US are doing, as well as the British FCO. And I'd also say that I would encourage people to look outside of those government agencies as well. Look a little bit further. There's some very, very credible security analysts on Twitter, on social media. And if you were to follow my feed or have a look at my feed at Lloyd Figgins, have a look at the people I follow, because those are the people who are on the ground getting credible information. Now, if tourists and travellers were also to have that information, they could make a more informed choice about whether they need to travel there, whether they want to travel there, and whether or not they're going to be safe there.
Lloyd Figgins, wise advice. Thanks very much indeed for your input.